About 5 years ago, I lived downtown in a major city in the US. I've always been a night person, so I would often find myself bored after my roommate, who was decidedly not a night person, went to sleep. To pass the time, I used to go for long walks and spend the time thinking. I spent 4 years like that, walking alone at night, and never once had a reason to feel afraid. I always used to joke with my roommate that even the drug dealers in the city were polite. But all of that changed in just a few minutes of one evening. It was Wednesday, somewhere between 1 and 2 in the morning, and I was walking near a police patrolled park quite a ways from my apartment. It was a quiet night, even for a weeknight, with very little traffic and almost no one on foot. The park, as it was most nights, was completely empty. I turned down a short side street in order to loop back to my apartment. I first noticed him. At the far end of the street on my side was the silhouette of a man dancing. It was a strange dance, similar to waltz, but he finished each box with an odd forward stride. I guess you could say he was dance walking headed straight for me. Deciding he was probably drunk, I stepped as close as I could to the road to give him the majority of the sidewalk to pass me by. The closer he got, the more I realized how gracefully he was moving. He was very tall and lanky and wearing an old suit. He danced closer still until I could make out his face. His eyes were open wide and wild, head tilted back slightly. Looking off at the sky, his mouth was formed in a painfully wide cartoon of a smile. Between the eyes and the smile, he decided to cross the street before he danced any closer. I took my eyes off him to cross the empty street. As I reached the other side, I glanced back and then stopped dead in my tracks. He had stopped dancing and was standing with one foot in the street, perfectly parallel to me. He was facing me but still looking skyward, smile still wide on his lips. I was completely and utterly unnerved by this. I started walking again but kept my eyes on the man. He didn't move. Once I had put about half a block between us, I turned away from him for a moment to watch the sidewalk in front of me. The street and the sidewalk ahead of me were completely empty, still unnerved. I looked back to where he had been standing to find him gone. For the briefest of moments, I felt relieved until I noticed him. He had crossed the street and was now slightly crouched down. I couldn't tell for sure due to the distance and the shadows, but I was certain he was facing me. I had looked away from him for no more than 10 seconds, so it was clear that he had moved fast, very fast. I was so shocked that I stood there for some time, staring at him, and then he started moving towards me again. He took giant, exaggerated, tiptoed steps, as if he were a cartoon character sneaking upon someone. Except he was moving very, very quickly. I'd like to say at this point I ran away or pulled out my pepper spray, my cell phone, or anything at all. But I didn't. I just stood there, completely frozen as the smiling man crept toward me. And then he stopped again, about a car length away from me, still smiling, his smile still looking to the sky. When I finally found my voice, I blurted out the first thing that came to my mind. What I meant to ask was, "What the hell do you want?" In an angry, commanding tone. What came out was a whimper. Regardless of whether or not humans can smell fear, they can certainly hear it. I heard it in my own voice. That only made me more afraid, but he didn't react to it at all. He just stood there smiling. And then, after what felt like forever, he turned around, very slowly and started dance walking away. Just like that, not wanting to turn my back to him again, I just watched him go until he was far enough away to almost be out of sight. And then I realized something. He wasn't moving away anymore, nor was he dancing. I watched in horror as the distant shape of him grew larger and larger. He was coming back my way, and this time he was running. I ran too. I ran until I was off to the side, rode back onto a better lit road with sparse traffic. Looking behind me then, he was nowhere to be found. The rest of the way home, I kept glancing over my shoulder, always expecting to see his stupid smile, but he was never there. I lived in that city for 6 months after that night, and I never went out for another walk. There was something about his face that always haunted me. He didn't look drunk, he didn't look high. He looked completely and utterly insane, and that's a very, very scary thing to me. This was a few years ago, on a night scuba dive. There were 8 of us in the group, including our dive master and his assistant. We had just finished our dive and were gathered up in a circle, ready to ascend and get out of the water. Dive master freezes. He takes his flashlight and pointing it outside our circle of divers, he catches something circling us with a beam. Turns out it was a 12-foot long great white shark. At this point, half of the group are trying to keep the shark illuminated. As it circles us, and remarkably everyone stayed calm. The only things going through my mind were iterations of these two thoughts. Don't look like a yummy, delicious, fatty seal. That I hope I taste terrible. My dive master gets our attention and slowly puts his thumb up, and then makes us upward motion. We all begin to ascend, and the shark kept with us until we were maybe 10 feet from the surface. Then it turned off into the darkness and was gone. I did not go back into the ocean for about a week after that. I was about 15 minutes from finishing the night shift at work when there was a massive crash on one of the windows in the office. So I get up and go to check it out. Someone has thrown quite a sizable rock through one of the windows on the front of the building. This is made especially weird because I'm working in the industrial district at 11:30 at the night, with none of the other businesses open. I go back to my desk, put a quick call through to security to let them know, and decided to head home. As I'm leaving the building, I'm freaking myself out about it more and more, and ended up running to my car, getting in and taking off. I'm almost home and I have started to calm down a bit when I realized that I didn't unlock my car when I got in. It had been unlocked the whole time. I do a quick check with my hand in the back seat for any possible murderers that might be hanging around there. There's nothing there. Fast forward 30 minutes. I have called a friend of mine who says he is out drinking, so I decided I'm going to join him. I jump on my bicycle and started riding over. I'm doodling along the road on my bike. It's a nice night, and I'm in a no big rush. Just enjoying the moonlight when I hear someone riding behind me. I straightened up and stick to one side of the road. He passes me really slowly, and when he is right beside me, he shoots me a smile I can describe as purely fucking insane. I kind of flinch and I'm taken aback as he rides on. That's when I realized he's riding my mom's bike. Needless to say, I sprint the fuck home. When I get there, sure enough, her bike is missing and one of my car's door is open. The back left one. I was driving. It had no need to open that door.